Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and the new banners for the Neuvillette and the Hutao one has been announced. So for the 4 stars and the 5-star weapons. So if you want to know what I think about whether you should pull for Neuvillette or Hutao, there'll be a card on the screen right now at the top right corner, I believe. So if you're interested to see what I think about that, go click on that video. So we're only going to look at the 4 stars, just do a quick banner analysis because there's a bunch of things I really want to work on for videos. So let's just get straight to it. And as I've mentioned, the one thing I did say in the Hu Tao video is that Hu Tao has a very likely chance to be run together with Xingqiu because he is essentially her best in slot support. Rejoice any non-Xingqiu havers or non-C6 Xingqiu users because you'll be getting a chance at getting C6. I don't know if I want to call her the Electro Queen, but she is probably arguably the best Electro character. Fischl, the Princess in the Veterung herself. So Fischl, pretty good. In a lot of Electro teams, especially whether it be Electro Charge or nowadays we are all running like the mix of Quick Bloom, Hyper Bloom, Aggravate or Spread. Fischl's damage alongside with Ascension 4 and getting C6 is very good in that kind of team rotation, especially because of how much C6 is able to offer, because like 2-second extension for Oz, so you go from like 10 second on field to like 12 second. And given that her burst cooldown is 25 seconds, right, you essentially have like infinite uptime as long as you have enough energy recharge on her to gain her burst like every rotation. Or at least like every 2 rotations, because realistically like a single rotation will probably be like around 15-20 seconds. And C6 also allows you to do the thing, the freaking machine gun Fischl, but that's not really the main goal. That's some nice damage, and I don't know about the ICD with the C6, but I think the biggest part aside from that is probably the fact that C6 allows you to manually target which freaking enemy you want Oz to hit, so I think that's quite a big W. And then Diona, well, Diona, if you don't have Layla or you want some sort of battery for your Permafreeze Ayaka team or maybe your Eula, Diona with a sack bow is relatively good. If you get constellations on her, especially like C2 to make her shield stronger, her shield is actually quite decent. The healing is also pretty nice, although it does get a bit jank when it comes to targeting, because I played Diona in certain times where she would just auto-target some enemy from 3 miles away or she's not within range and she just tosses the freaking cocktail mix halfway across the room where there's nothing there, so that's the only real downside about her. But otherwise, I think Diona is a very balanced, solid character. Although I would say outside of her roles in certain teams, like maybe a Diluc Burst Melt team or certain Permafreeze team or a Eula pure physical team used as a battery, she's a pretty solid character. Very solid shielder, a decent amount of healing. You give her a Phone of Bless with a Psych Bow and enough ER, she can basically kind of be an all-rounder in a lot of these different aspects. Now, moving on to the weapon banner. So, I think I need to actually pull up a freaking link, because on Hoyo Lab, I haven't made a video on this, but they announced the new stats for the new weapons over there. So maybe I'll go through that very quickly later on. So obviously we have the Staff of Homa and the Tome of Eternal Flow. So if you don't mind, I'm going to quickly tap out, and maybe Post Edit Me is going to essentially add the freaking post over on the video. So Neuvillette's Catalyst, the Tome of Eternal Flow, apparently is basically Yelan substat like the Aqua Simulacra weapon. Very low base attack with 88.2% crit damage, so very likely Neuvillette's gonna scale off HP. I think he does actually scale off HP. So there's 2 parts of the passive. So the first part is basically like Aqua Simulacra once again, increase HP by a certain amount. And then the second part is basically Mare Horsey but charge attack. When current HP increases or decreases, charge attack damage will be increased by 14% for 4 seconds, and there's a maximum of 3 stacks at Refinement 1. You can trigger every 0.3 seconds, and if you have 3 stacks or the third stack's duration is refreshed, 8 energy will be restored to the wielder, but this restoration can only trigger once every 12 seconds. So you can tell that this weapon is very much made for Neuvillette, because Neuvillette is going to scale off HP and he doesn't really care too much about base attacks, so crit damage is really the biggest like part of this weapon. I would say the only downside is that it's a very niche weapon, like a lot of the other weapons that we've been seeing for probably the past year or so for all the newer characters, because you need to find a way to increase or decrease HP. However, things may change in the very near future, but I'm not gonna really talk about that for now until the dreams come to life. So I would say for charge attack damage, I guess it's pretty decent. I'm considering like other characters that can use charge attack, maybe like a charge attack Skara, or maybe like charge attack Ningguang, although from my experience, I think Ningguang is better as a quick swap at C6 rather than running like a charge attack damage, and I think her charge attack is decent, but you still need to find a way to increase or decrease her HP, so I think right now this is definitely mostly a Neuvillette weapon. For now, it's not that great. However, things may change in the near future. And then for the weapons, we have a few new 4-star weapons. Let's just go off from left to right. So the first one will be I think it's the Mitternacht Waltz. So the Mitternacht Waltz, I believe, is Fischl's kind of like meme physical weapon. It has a very low base attack, but it gives you, I believe, like 60 freaking physical damage. And to be honest, we don't really have, 51.7%, very low base attack. And let's see, what is a passive? Actually, we can just check in game. What am I doing? Actually, no, we can't, because it's not out yet. I'm dumb. So the passive, normal attack hits opponent will increase the skill damage by a little bit. Skill hits will increase normal attack. Yeah, this is more for an on-field Fischl. If you want to run like a hybrid physical superconduct electro-os kind of thing, I don't really know. To be honest, this weapon is more of like, it looks cool for Fischl, but it's not really a weapon that you would ever use in a regular electro Fischl, so I don't think it's all that great. And now if we were looking at the other stuff, let's see. So we have one of the new weapons, I think that's the portable handsaw. Let me just browse over to the freaking Hoyolab post real quick. So the Dockhand's assistant, I've been hearing about this weapon and how it's supposed to be the first HP sword aside from Kachnisut, which I do agree. So I think a lot of people gunning for this will very likely go for this weapon just for their Nilu. So let's read over what the passive does. Whenever the wielder is healed or heals others, they will gain a symbol, lasts for 30 seconds, maximum of 3. When they use their skill or burst, they consume all symbols and they'll gain this effect for 10 seconds. For every symbol consumed, you gain 40 EM, and for 2 seconds after the effect occurs, 2 energy per symbol consumed will be restored for said character. And the passive can only be triggered once every 15 seconds, and you can even trigger it off-field. So TLDR, if the user gets healed or healed, they gain stacks. And if you have 3 stacks, you can use your skill or your burst to consume it. And for every stack you have, you can gain 40 EM and 2 energy, which is at refinement 1 a maximum of 120 and 6, which I guess is pretty decent. Now for Nilo, I think the EM is actually pretty nice, considering that I think her other weapons, aside from the Kachnisut, she doesn't really have any good 4-star weapon options, aside from maybe like running an EM sword like Zyphos at high refinements if you want to help your team gain the energy back, or Iron Sting for just the EM, and Tokabo also just for the EM. But I've seen some videos here and there, and personally I don't really know much about this. If you guys want to pull for a 4-star weapon, and generally if you guys want to pull for any 4 stars, I would personally recommend holding back, especially when the weapon is a new one, because we don't actually know how good it is. Like, what if this weapon looks good on surface, but it's only a very minor damage increase, or it just looks cool? In terms of like the actual effect, you're better off not spending pulls on the weapon banner. Because as a victim of the weapon banner who got scammed because the weapon banner doesn't really have that great of a system, I would recommend you guys to just kind of hold back a little bit. Maybe just go wait for people to test things for like a week or so. And once all the theory crafters and people do the respective tests, then maybe you can go look it up and see whether it's actually really worth for your Nilo. And now for the other 4-star weapons, we have both Fav Lance and Fav Codex. Like, there's nothing much I can really say about the Fav weapons. They're all just OP. If you ever get them, just maybe save like 2 to 3 copies. If you're someone like me who does horizontal investment and you want to put like 1 Fav weapon for the right support for each at like R1, then yeah, I guess it's fine. Otherwise, getting more refinements is pretty good. I would say between the two, I think Fav Lance is better because we do have quite a lot of supports that can use a high refinement Fav Lance. Like, let's say you do Shieldbot Zhongli with Fav Lance, Candice. I think my characters that run it is like Yao Yao, Mika, and there's probably a few more left and right, but generally I think Lance is probably more valuable than Codex in this situation. For the last weapon, I believe that's the Power Saw. Audible Power Saw, one of the new claymores. Now, let me go over what this weapon does. It has a very low base attack but very high HP percent. I think the passive is similar. Yeah, the passive is exactly the same as a sword. So this one, I'm not quite sure because I feel like for a lot of the Claymore characters, most of them don't really want HP. And before you start thinking that this is good for someone like Deya or Dori, correct me if I'm wrong, but Deya doesn't even scale off HP until Constellation 1. And for Dori, we don't even talk about Dori. Like, why are we even going there? I'd much rather run the bell on Femine than run the bell on Dori. That's just how it is. But I guess in terms of Claymore, I'm gonna have to quickly browse over my character archive just to see what kind of characters may use this. Yeah, Deya C1 does scale of HP. Dori, we don't talk about her. Sayu's healing, I believe, scales off attack instead of HP, so that's absolutely useless. And yeah, to be honest, I think the new Claymore doesn't have any users, so I think it's not really good. So I guess if we go back to the overall review, it's, I don't know, it's like, aside from the 5 weapons and maybe the sword for Nilu, I think Staff of Homa is probably the only real good one, aside from the some of the 4 stars. And I think Neuvillette's Catalyst is a bit too niche for now, so I think the weapon banner is pretty bad. And to be honest, if you really want a better investment for your account, I would highly recommend for pulling for Constellations on Xingqiu. Get him to C6, get your Diona to C6. I mean, you don't really need C6 for Diona, but it's always nice to have it. And then most importantly, Fischl and Xingqiu are some of the strongest 4-star characters in the game. So if you can get C6 for both of them, you will get way more of an investment and way more return from pulling from a weapon banner, where not only do you have a chance to get the 4-star characters on standard, these 5 weapons will also have to compete with the rest of the weapons that are available all year round. So forget about pulling for 4 stars on a goddamn limited banner. You're trying to pull for a 4-star weapon in a freaking weapon banner and you don't even know if you're gonna get Staff of Homa or not. So I don't know. I think the weapon banner is not really that great. Although I do think that if you guys are going for either Neuvillette or Hu Tao, I would say the freaking rated banner the character banner is pretty good. Unless you already have C6 of all of them, of which I do. And that's why I'm not pulling for Neuvillette. Thank God. Hello, Persedit Ethereal here. Just to add a little bit of disclaimer, I just want to say that I generally don't recommend pulling for 4 stars in any of these banners because the pity system for 4-star weapons and 4-star characters, both in the limited weapon and limited character banner, is not particularly good. Like, let's say for the limited banner, right? You pull for the character banner. If your first 4-star was not of the rated up character, like not Xingqiu, Fischl, or Diona, the next one will be guaranteed to be one of the 3. But afterwards, it will reset and the cycle continues. The same could be said for the weapon banner. So generally, like, I don't recommend pulling for 4 stars, even if you want it, because unless you are perfectly fine with getting the 5-star weapons and characters, it's not really worth it. Don't build pity. I've seen people literally win 50-50s to characters that they don't even build just for the sake of building pity and pulling for certain 4 stars. So yeah, alright, back to the video. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's the overall analysis. Weapon banner is pretty bad, and I can foresee certain situations where people might not even want a second copy of Staff of Homa, which technically sounds crazy, but I feel like I can put myself in such a position because even if I have Staff of Homa, I still haven't really want to build DP as Zhongli. And at best, if I was to have Staff of Homa, like a second copy, I would just put it on my Candice because I can. Because she's hollow, right? Don't judge me. So yeah, that's it for the banner analysis. I'm just going to quickly edit this and hopefully this video helped you guys in making your decision. Overall, to summarize everything, weapon banner is pretty bad. Aside from Staff of Homa, unless you're going for Neuvillette's weapon, just remind you guys why people call weapon banner a scam. Your first 5-star has a 75% chance to be one of the 2 rated up, with 25% being any of the standard banner weapons. So you could spend like 70 pulls and you might get like Jade Spear, Amos Bow, all these other like really bad standard weapons that you don't even care about, that you don't even want. So unless you are really sure that you're fine with getting either of these 2 and somehow you're okay with getting another Amos Bow or another Aquila for Vonia, then I guess you could go for it. But if you want to pull for any of the 4 stars, I would personally recommend just pulling for the character banner. The C6, the Constellation 6 for all these characters will progress your account and strengthen it to way much than pulling for a single Staff of Homa. So, thank you for watching. That is it. I wish you guys the best of luck in your summons and I'm gonna go about editing. This is Ethereal, signing off.